mathematical formula to the vanishing point on the horizon line and connect them with the vanishing point in 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, 3 point perspective. The very heavy art history book from which some students of fine arts studied even as late as the second half of 1990s is sitting on top of 100 pages of rather straight lines challenge. Topics discussed today: French realism, the painting by Gustave Courbet, Burial at Ornay, and that's in feet, but it's over 6 meters long. Edward Hopper, Nighthawks. Andy Warhol, but no Campbell soup here. Nor here. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Artistic Workout. I really wanted to make a travel episode, because, of course, technique is very important if you want to create art. But what is probably more important is having something to say. So I went to a few trips in my country of Poland. The country has changed a lot since my youth and is still changing. The first trip that I went to with my son is to the town of Starachowice. It is south of capital of Warsaw, where I have been living for 10 years. And Starachowice is where my grandparents used to live. But back in the day, the roads were very different and the country was different. Polish salaries, for example, are now over 2.5 times higher in buying power than they were in the communist times. That is before 1989. And that's not all. Even if you had money, you would have to stand in lines for everything and make various arrangements to get the necessary items. For example, you would buy something. Well, not you, not me. I was a child. I wasn't participating that much in that part of life. But if you had the chance to buy something, you would buy it even if you didn't need it, because it was a chance for you to have something to exchange for something that you needed in the future. And I heard that only last year the salaries grew by 13%. That's a lot. We leave Warsaw through a comfortable new highway and off we go. And we see more wide modern roads ahead. So finally, after almost 2 hours, there's a 20-kilometer stretch of local road, also not in a bad shape, mind you, but it will soon be substituted by a 4-lane road, the opening of which is delayed by almost a year now. We reach the town of Starachowice. I will take some footage on a different occasion, and we witness clean sidewalks, smooth pavements, fountains, neat town squares, which all seem to be the new Polish standard. Is it like this everywhere? I think it is almost everywhere like that. In Starachowice, I'm also surprised by the very modern city buses from the local MAN factory, which provide a free service to the population. So they have a proud big 0 painted on the sides of it, meaning it's a free ride for everybody. The German manufacturer actually bought what was manufactured before, that is trucks by the name of Star, which were a brand in Poland and Eastern Europe and exported to some, well, maybe not as sophisticated countries, not as developed. And the town suffered more or less 2 decades of poverty, but I see that now it is looking better and better. The Canadian groups Rush singer, bass players Getty Lee's parents were from the town of Starachowice, by the way, which I learned to my surprise. On a different occasion, my friend Karol, with whom we formed the provincial artist group, invited me to a place near the Ukrainian border in the east of Poland. People are more conservative over there, but also very, very, very hospitable. So that stay was wonderful. My next short trip is to the most dangerous area of the world, as they call it, the Suwałki Gap, Przesmyk Suwalski, a land between Russia's Kaliningrad area and Belarus. So it is said that the Russians will attack from Belarus and go towards the Kaliningrad enclave or whatever. Do I believe it? Doesn't seem likely. They can cause chaos in other ways without actual physical war. I like the area a lot. I discovered it a year ago. Beautiful lakes and forests, hills, the architecture that is different from central Poland's, some interesting wooden houses, a canal going from Poland to Belarus. Okay, and once again, my name is Bartosz Milewski. I graduated from Cornish College of the Arts in Seattle, majoring in painting and videography. I received a BFA there, And a few years later, feeling like a total loser, I enrolled in Fine Arts Academy in Kraków, where I received master's degree in painting, and I actually had an A+, which is the highest grade, which allowed me to study more for free, and I received a doctorate degree sometime later. So I received that degree even though I misbehaved during my final defense and exam, and that just goes to show you that you are wiser than your lecturer was. And I hope that you will continue with your good attitude and good work. I lecture at the Vistula University in Warsaw, Poland, in its graphic department. I teach privately, receiving very good reviews because I put a lot of effort and passion into constantly improving my ways. This video series is part of my ongoing process of self-improvement in that regards. I like sharing my knowledge and skill, and I also like taking care of others. I hope that in the artistic workout series you will find lots of fun and valuable information on how to draw, how to paint, and how to get inspired perhaps. So a bit of art history as well as student critiques, interactions, and a little bit of humor. And I'm self-sufficient when it comes to humor. That means I tell myself a joke and I laugh. So if you would like to support my channel and have it reach other people, please subscribe, give it a like if you like the content. And what else is important? Many comments, so that the algorithms feed on it, and they push the content forward. So going back to my doctor's defense, when I acted like a moron, although perhaps a courageous one, and at the time I was also enduring very tough and tragic times of my life, I was praised for my written thesis, my ability to write, and I was stating that one should create, that is, for example, one should paint in the style and with the subject matter related to one's culture and experiences. In other words, don't try to do what everybody else in the world does. Don't reflect something general. Don't rebel even in the same way as everybody else is rebelling. Rebel in a different way. When they say, I don't want to draw and practice, then practice more. Be unlike the others. But that's not the main thing here in this whole thing. And in my doctor's thesis, and in my master's thesis as well, for that matter. So, being true to one's culture and one's experiences would require a focused, concentrated look into one's childhood memories, as well as an insight into what it's going on around, what the surrounding is like. The attention would focus on the surrounding architecture, from very modest things to slightly bigger, from kiosks, shops, workplaces, to bigger factories, apartment buildings. But also the focus should be on the transportation, buses, trams, trains, train stations. For that matter, also trucks that deliver everyday goods, as well as everyday goods themselves, because they are the essence, the stuff of everyday life. We might not see them, all of these things, as anything beautiful or stunning. Perhaps not because they don't possess potential for beauty, but perhaps because they haven't been interpreted by arts, put into frames, or showcased as often as, let's say, the rich people's palaces. A local gas station, a shopping mall, or workers building a new stretch of a street also don't spark our curiosity unless we are little children. Perhaps because we see them every day and they are contemporary things and events from our surrounding that is not anything exotic. So then, why do we value the paintings of French realist painters who depicted scenes from ordinary life, of ordinary people, like farmers, like stonecutters, or passengers on a tram, one of them carrying geese in her basket? The use of large scale became a statement, shocking to many, when, on the 6-meter-long canvas, the painter by the name of Gustave Courbet, the main French realist, depicted a funeral of a village priest. Such huge canvases were limited for the highest of genres of the era, when there was a hierarchy of genres at the time, the highest of which were historical scenes. Today that painting is at a museum. It happened because of the passage of time, and this scene depicted by Courbet has become somewhat exotic to us, because today it serves as a view, or a snapshot, if you will, of things past. It is perhaps easier to paint a scene from the past as we have nostalgia for what is gone. And by the way, I called my manifesto, our manifesto, the provincial artist group, in memory of things that haven't passed away yet, or something like that. So, missing something that is still here and we can see it. But will it be? How long will it take for it to disappear? So, nostalgia is easier because something that is not here, we miss it, we don't experience it, it's exotic. But on the other hand, we don't possess the first-hand experience and knowledge of the scenes like the village priest's funeral at the French province some, was it like 200 years ago? On the other hand, there are things that we experience currently. It is not easy to take all that surrounds us, by us I mean artists or art students, why not, and to frame it somehow, to find in all its abundance of things the signs that are most vital and show the mood of the times, but also something important to us personally. One might say, although it is not very precise or scientific, so to speak, that it is difficult to see the beauty in the ordinary world. It is not easy to find the right moment, the lighting situation, nor the right composition. Very often somebody does the first step for us. What do I mean by that? Monet painted steam engines, those terrible dirty machines of the modern age, of the 19th century. Did not remind anyone of the sanctioned beauty of the previous paintings, let's say of battles, of saints, or perhaps even of landscapes. Edward Hopper, an American painter of the early 20th century, was another artist that inspired us when we were studying at the Fine Arts Academy in Kraków, while deciding to form our art group, Provincial Artists. Hopper was classically trained in Paris, but he lived in the US and depicted scenes of solitude, the story of people who occupied hotel rooms, gas station, or the most famous perhaps, Nighthawks, as seen at a cafe in the middle of the night, sometime in the 40s, United States. Through the glass, but having some street in the scene as well, a slight diagonal tilt, perspective, and that framing has been inspirational for other painters, but not only, but also for photographers and filmmakers who wanted to make sense of this new land, new territory, applying some basics of European art, as many of the people were descendants of Europeans, into the new world and the new times, as well as the new media of photography and film. In 1960s, Andy Warhol reproduced a can of tomato soup. That was another everyday thing, but I'm Polish, and should I be doing a New York kind of arts, which many people all around the world have practiced? Or should I look deeper into my own experiences, find my own can of soup, which for me probably, perhaps would be the pierogi dish? Or let's turn the whole thinking process around, perhaps. Maybe in all of these instances that I discussed, the artist is talking about the humans, their experiences. So, by looking at a painting, you can imagine yourself, perhaps, being born in a different place at a different time, but in your core still being yourself somehow, the same person. And when looking at this piece of painting, but also when reading a book, a novel, you may experience those times through your own eyes and other senses, not only sight. You could be at the funeral of your priest in the village, or you could travel these new iron monsters powered by steam engines. Or perhaps you would be eating a can of Campbell's soup each evening. Maybe you could be a stonecutter or a nighthawk, but you're not. If you're an artist, maybe you could be inspired by those examples, but in a different way, on a deeper level. Find your own favorite dishes, go to that local store, Think about the face by the counter that you remember from your childhood, your youth. Think about your neighbor and paint their story. The question is how to paint it. Should you be looking at a universal language of painting and applying it to your own subjects? But what is the universal language? It's vast. Some painters paint with bright colors, some painters paint with almost monochromatic colors. There are many choices. That's the vocabulary which you can acquire, you can learn. It is like if you want to be a writer, read a lot of books, but then the choices come to you, some of them consciously, as a result of left brain activity, analytical. Others come intuitively. Okay. The task for the second year students, the third semester, will be to paint their first memory. What is your first memory? Write in the comments. And these stories that people tell about the first memory, they're wonderful, and I often connect to them. Something happened in the other part of the world, but it is so similar to my own experiences. And it shows you how, despite being in different cultures, we're so much alike in many ways, which in turn brings tolerance and understanding. Once you think about your first memory, and write in the comments, remember, maybe I will too, actually. Ask yourself, how do I remember that scene? Is everything in focus? Is everything visible? Is perhaps parts of it, are they missing? Are they unfocused? Are they hidden in the dark? For inspiration, look at Luc Tuymans' very vague atmosphere. He paints on large unstretched canvas, and then he cuts out what he pleases, what is important to him. Not many layers of paint, which means he has to have a very precise stroke. Not much room for overpainting. Another artist, Gerhard Richter, very versatile person with a fascinating life, and perhaps you could watch the long movie based on his life, but I don't know how accurately, called Paintings Without an Author, a German film, 3 hours long, I think, pretty recent. So look at Richter's paintings from the 60s, most of them black and white, based on photography. It also is something close to, perhaps how we remember things. We remember things, relearn them, so to speak, because we have photographs. But what if we haven't had them? So how would we remember them? I think perhaps that we see something with our peripheral vision and we remember that. So some things are unfocused and then our brain stores it somewhere. That's why our childhood memories are also this, what is going on around, not only in the sharp focus of the middle of our vision. So I hope this episode wasn't that bad. I really wanted to document what is going on in 2025 in Poland, because a lot of changes It's quite unbelievable. So anyway, once again, please subscribe, give it a like, and write in the comments, what is your first memory and how do you remember? And I hope we form a little community there. We write our experiences, our memories, we comment on them. That's what's going on at the university. Some wonderful times, wonderful stories, and even some teachers participated in it. And I hope our rector will also share his story with us. That would be a wonderful thing. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.